We're back here at the Hearthstone at Grandmasters. I'm Raven, and joining me, of course, is Language Hacker. We have Flurry versus FroStee coming up for match number 2. We just had Surrender take a win in his first match, which was pretty impressive overall over Stars, and it looked like it could have gone either way. But for now, let's talk about Flurry and FroStee. Do you know much about FroStee, Language Hacker?
I've seen him quite a bit around. I've seen him on ladder as well. I've seen him, I think, attend some events, but I'm not sure if I've seen him in the spotlight too frequently.
No, he's pretty much one of the underdogs, I would say, for this tournament. One of the least well-known players. An Australian guy, pretty fun to hang out with. Might spend some time with him after Worlds at the Summit. But he's a good guy. But I think he's definitely feeling the pressure to perform as one of the few Australian players we actually get to see on a lot of the big stages. I think mainly down to travel everywhere as far away from Australia.
That's true.
As far as I know, at least with my limited geography skills. But yeah, I think he's got a lot to prove in this tournament, and his first hurdle is going to be Flurry. So one of the Korean players for Cloud9, and a very, very accomplished player and respected player. And it's going to be Rogue versus Warrior as well. So we started off easy with a Warrior versus Mage, but let's check out the decks of these players, because this is the one I think everyone expected. Here's FroStee and his Warrior here, and it is the Bomb Warrior, pretty similar to Surrender's list overall and Surrender's builds. But just go over very briefly for any viewers that just joined us. What's this deck and what's it really aiming to achieve with this list?
So people are bringing Warrior mainly to be able to stifle the rogues that a lot of people are expecting. And Control Warrior, people have found that doesn't work as effectively because you still need to kill the rogue. Sometimes the rogue just kills you even with just your defensive options. So having tools with like Wrench Caliber and Clockwork Goblin shuffling bombs into the rogue's deck makes it difficult for them to Myra because they also are at risk of dying themselves. Interestingly, in this list, we also see that there's only one brawl. Turns out when you brawl a rogue's board, there's still something left over, and then they keep hitting you in the face. So
and then you die.
Yeah, and then you die. That's how it works. So people have been opting to cut brawl, go for some more proactive options with these early minions like Augmented Ally, Clockwork Goblin, Acolyte for more consistency.
Yeah, even for me, the Acolyte pain's a big one. This just straight away with this list is, I'm not planning on playing a super late game. You can with Dr. Boom, but overall the Acolyte is just get me to my bombs, get me to my pressure, and strangely enough, although it's a Warrior deck that can go late game, the way I see this deck played the most is actually just curved. Players just want to play minions out as quickly as possible and just pile that pressure on their opponent's health. So we can check out the next deck as well, and the variations now. Just a reminder, this is Specialist, so you bring a core deck, you have to queue up with game number 1, and then there are the 2 decks that you build as extras with a up to 5 card difference. So this version is a little bit more built for that late game. Language Hacker, break it down for us.
All right, well, this obviously not what you want against Rogue, but we see some Archivist Lysiana, we see Baleful Banker, and Mojo Master Zihi, an interesting ad. I haven't seen Mojo Master teched at all, so I'm curious to see how this plays out. It's possible that you throw this down when you don't have one of your 7-drops and you expect your opponent to, perhaps, and just say, you know what, let's delay this a turn, or maybe you develop a big board late game and then set them down to less mana to work with, and then try to push offensively later on. But this lets you go much later into Fatigue. Obviously, Lysiana replaces your deck with 10 extra cards, and with a Banker, you can shuffle even more. There's also possibilities of shuffling in more bomb generators. And that way, if you find you're on the the front foot pushing a lot of damage, all right, well, let's not take another 20 turns of this game. Let's shuffle in some more bombs.
Yeah, we were talking about some weird things before the show about, do you run 2 Baleful Bankers and then shuffle, say, an Elic or extra bomb generators and then shuffle another Baleful Banker so you can just endlessly kind of generate bombs, or at least a lot of extra at least, so it would have been funny, but there is only the one as an addition here. But for me, the Mojo Master as well can also, as well as countering your opponent, you can also cement your lead, right? If you play, Boom, or if you do one big turn and then you play it and stop your opponent matching you, say Dr. Boom, for example, or anything big like that, then it can be a little bit tricky, and maybe you can cash in on those few extra sort of lower mana cost turns. Let's check out the the tertiary deck that FroStee is going to bring, and this is, again, similar to Surrender's build and overall lineup of this tournament and league, for at least for week 1. It's going to be the Super Collider, Omega Devastators extras, and Big Game Hunter. So Big Mage Hunter coming down here in this tertiary deck list, very similar to the previous matchup. But for me, Language Hacker, I'll be surprised if FroStee even turns away from his initial core list.
Really?
Yes.
I'm surprised to hear that. The Big Game Hunter is one of the best tools you're going to have actually against Mage. If you look at the 2 games that Surrender ended up winning, the Big Game Hunters let him just stay alive so long that he was able to actually eventually take tempo, take board, and pressure on the back foot Staz now.
Yep.
Without the Big Game Hunters, some of those Giants would have stuck, and if, for example, your Mage opponent knows that you don't have Big Game Hunters,
well, I think for me that's fine, but when he's against Rogue,
he's
Flurry,
against Rogue. Yeah.
I mean, it's great versus Edwin, right?
Right,
so,
right.
you know, if you're playing around Edwin, and Edwin is, you know, the fear of many a player, then a Big Game Hunter would be okay, but for me, the core removal is there. But we can check out Flurry's list as well, and check out what he's bringing. As I said, it is the Rogue. So this is probably the meta matchup, Rogue versus Warrior. Can Rogue beat Warrior consistently when Warrior knows it's playing against Rogue? Break down the court list for me with the Life Drinker, Raiding Party, and Myra's key cards.
All right, well, more of a recent tech. Life Drinker is in the deck now for some extra reach, which helps against Warrior when they have a lot more health to work with, or even against other decks. It's just aggressive enough where you have enough direct damage that they can't deal with. We see a couple of nods here to Rogue expectations. We see Bloodsail Corsair and Acidic Swamp Ooze as weapon hate, which is kind of odd to see in Rogue because your whole game plan is let me kill my opponent. But if you're expecting a lot of Rogues, having this sort of weapon removal to get rid of, say, a Waggle Pick or a Deadly Poison weapon can help swing the game back into your favor.
Yep, and also as well, just a small note, even Super Collider can get some work because as Rogue, you normally have a lot of similar statted minions on the board. So suddenly Super Collider just, 2 for 1 basically every turn is really going to reduce that board state down. But let's take a look at the secondary deck as well for Flurry and see what his alternate builds are. There's Chef Nomi, the one we all know and love, a Sprint, along with a 2 Hench Clan Burglars, Harrison Jones in there as well, for some extra weapon hate. So, is this the Warrior killer, Language Hacker?
We're going to have to find out. I mean, there's a lot more value generation with this, right? We have the 2 Hench Clan Burglars. We've seen some people run lists without Myras, like Thief Rogues, for example. And it turns out with Hench Clan Burglar, you can generate a lot of value. You get a spell from another class, not necessarily from what your opponent's class is. But there's a lot of crazy stuff you can get with this. And you can kind of have very crazy different games based on the cards you get off of this. The Sprint helps you more consistently draw more cards and get you to Myras, for example, which then in turn gets you at the end of your deck and then lets you play Chef Nomi, which is apparently pretty good against Warrior.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple of ways Rogues have tried to beat Warrior, and High Sparrow Togwaggle with schemes and things like that are definitely one route, but this route with double Shadow Step we can see there at the top means that these Shadow Steps can either be used for, say, lethal with Leroy, for example, the usual, or you can actually just play Nomi, Shadow Step, they brawl, play Nomi, Shadow Step, and keep going like that to just create unlimited boards. Very similar to the way the Nomi Priest plays with this Seance instead. So all pretty valuable there, and I feel like this is the Warrior killer. But let's check out Flurry's tertiary deck as well, just to see how he, overall finished up his build of Rogue. And here we have the Walk the Planks. I think this is the 2 of Walk the Plank, yeah, if I recall.
2 of Walk the Planks.
And then Hench Clan Thugs as well. So feels like a much more aggressive list, Language Hacker.
Yeah, definitely. We also see the Hench Clan Thugs in there. It's difficult for mages to deal with this. The more recent mage builds, so Staz is a bit of an anomaly because people have kind of tended away from the minion-heavy list. There's still some big minions in the new mages that we're seeing, but there's no voodoo dolls, there's no scale worms that help you deal with what Hench Clan Thug, which some of the rogues used to run in the past. So having this in for those mage lists, you play Hench Clan Thug, start swinging at face, it's hard for the mage to deal with this, and then the Hench Clan ends up putting a lot of early damage. And then with tools like Eviscerate, Life Drinker, Leroy, you can close out the game very quickly against Mage before they have a chance to do anything. Yeah,
one of those decks where you just go, well, they're not really going to try and kill me too quickly, and the things they can, I'll just walk the plank with them anyway. Giants, very, very susceptible. So this looks like a Mage killer to me. We might well not see it in this build, but you do have to be prepared, and that's just the way you go here. So those are the 2 sets of lists, and just a reminder, they have to queue their core list up first. So for me, I think that already that feels like the most important thing. Like, what is your core build? Is it an anti-rogue? Is it just an all-rounder? Do you lean it somewhere else? It's very interesting because the second you go 0-1 down in a best of 3, you start to sweat a little bit and you need to make it work. See the 2 players just getting ready there. Flurry on the right, of course, and a FroStee on the left. FroStee looks very serious, as I said. I feel like from talking to him, he feels like a lot of pressure and that he has a lot to prove, but he's normally a very jovial, sort of, loud, typical, I'll say, Australian, guy, and then he's looking quite stoic now and quite focused.
I was going to say the exact same thing. He looks very focused, adamant, ready to go.
Yeah, and we'll see with his play. He's going up against Flurry on on Cloud 9. You can see him in the jersey there, but also Flurry, a pretty popular player, as one of the biggest streamers as well over in South Korea. So he is by no means a pushover. And like I said, I think the big question here, when you're faced with a league of this many good players, is who do I think is the, I'll say, worst player? You've got to think that as a player, and then so I need to beat those people to have a chance, because then you've also got to beat people you think are better than you,
right,
or at least on level as well. So I think maybe anyone going up against FroStee, mainly just down to how unknown he is, and maybe even unproven in, say, competitive formats, that you've got to think as another player that, okay, like I should beat FroStee, and then move on from there. But from speaking to FroStee, he's looking pretty good himself.
It's a dangerous way to think from your opponents. You don't want to, kind of stay more relaxed. You want to make sure you're paying attention to the games and being focused. I think
100%.
Yeah.
So I think as well, like, so honestly, like, if you were playing in this format, would you not think, would it cross your mind going into a match like, I should win this one? Or would you not deem yourself better than anyone else? Would you think everyone was on your level or above?
Well, I would only think in that sense if I'm looking at like post-deck list submission, like, oh, I've teched my deck to beat this. My opponent brought this. Perfect. I think I should be favored. But looking at opponents, everyone in here is just formidable players. It's hard to look at any opponent here and be like, oh, I should win this. You might think, you could say something like FroStee might not have as much experience, on the big stage. Maybe he gets nervous or something, and maybe that gives you a bit of an edge. But I think for the most part, these players are going to have a lot of respect for each other.
Okay, well, I mean, that is the case. They were all together in the summit as well, in this very room. Oh, not this room, but this building, should I say. So there was a lot of discussion and some smack talk as well, that I'm sure we'll get to in the interviews when we show them now and again. So that'll be a lot to hang out. I do believe the players should be ready for the game, so I'll just double check with that one. But it is going to be, as I said, the Rogue versus Warrior, the meta matchup we've all been waiting for. Maybe not waiting for on ladder, but waiting for in the specialist format. There has been tons of Open Cups played, mainly for qualifying spots to the big stops. But for now, let's see how it performs in the Grandmasters League. Match number 2 of the day. It's FroStee versus Flurry. FroStee on the Warrior on the top, and Flurry going to be playing out this Rogue. These are their core main decks. And we'll see how it goes out here. I see an Evil Miscreant as well as Coin, and some filthy cards like Prep and Raiding Party Language Hacker. So already, if I was Flurry, I'd be feeling pretty happy with this opening hand.
Ironically, quite a bomb of a hand.
Hey, I like it already. You're getting off to a great start in the casting, mate.
Good to know. Flurry holding on to Preparation Raiding Party for a future turn. Just Coin Miscreant to get some lackeys.
Yeah, no need to rush it out yet. It isn't really going to be used for a couple of turns anyway. But FroStee not off to a bad start himself. The Eternium Rover, and then even Wrench Caliber and double Dynomatic with Zilliax, to me, just spells a lot of dead Rogue minions.
Oh yeah. Funnily enough, the Miscreant, even though it's not a large minion in itself, it has a lot of health. And from Frostee's perspective, it's annoying to kill. It's not pushing a lot of damage by itself, but I mean, it takes, what, 2 Wrench Caliber swings at it? You could rush in a Militia Commander, but then you're sinking 5 damage into something that has 1 attack and you feel kind of awkward about it.
And there's also alternate phase of what the lackeys are going to do to it. Some, buff plus 1 attack, which makes it a little bit more annoying. Twice as powerful in its attack. But also Witchy Lackey turns it into a 4-drop. It's like, oh, he played it, he got 2 lackeys, and now he has a 4-drop. Like, this is getting progressively more frustrating. But we'll see what FroStee chooses to answer this. I do think he has to kill that Aragorn with the Wrench Caliber. I don't think you can afford to even just let Flurry have an extra minion. Like, what if he gets, an extra Nomi or an extra Leroy or, extra Greenskin, and almost extra anything is going to be good.
Yeah. I think he has to consider whether or not he expects any weapon removal from Flurry. Flurry does have a Bloodsail Corsair and a Swamp Ooze, but I think it's...
I think going into the turn that you can play a card to combo Raiding Party as well makes it, like, terrifying. All of the pirates, please.
Okay, from Flurry's side, he does have the Ooze, but not much else to do past that. He could use the Witchy Lackey as well if he chooses to ooze this turn to evolve the Miscreant to something that costs a bit more. Maybe perhaps a bit more threatening, but he could also consider keeping the Miscreant around since he just drew a Shadow Step. Fill his hand up a bit more with lackeys.
Yeah, something to note as well is Shadow Step in Nomi that I talked about earlier will not come into play because Nomi is not in his primary deck,
Right.
which means that Shadow Step is more free, I would say, to be used in other fashions, whether it's on a miscreant, whether it's on a live trigger for lethal, or even just some kind of value generation, maybe even on a green skin, to be able to just make a waggle pick go even harder.
Flurry making a board big enough that doesn't die to Dynomatic and also doesn't die to Warpath, setting up to push some damage next turn.
And also non-susceptible to a... Is he running it in his core list? Oh, he's not actually. Okay. I was just checking for Super Collider, just in case, but he isn't running one in his primary deck, which means that Super Collider isn't really going to be a fear. There is only one more Wrench Caliber left as weapons. Oh, and 2 weapons projects, I guess.
Kind of an awkward turn from FroStee. You probably do just Dynomatic. Devastator doesn't do a whole lot. I'm not sure if you want to Shield Slam anything here yet. Militia Commander doesn't line up quite well with a Divine Shield left over on the Silver Moon Guardian.
Ziliax feels like a bit of a miss because of it's not healing, which you can always get value out of Ziliax against a rogue because all their minions pretty much have 3 health. So it always lines up pretty well. Shield Slam and Omega Devastator.
There aren't that many Shield Slam targets in the rogue lists, especially if they're not running cards like Heist Baron Togwaggle.
Right. Also, funnily enough, because there aren't many Shield Slam targets, there aren't many Omega Devastator targets either. So I actually quite like this of just getting, you know what, I'm getting a 4/5 out. It might soften up the board a little bit to make my Dynamatics next turn and the turn after way, way, way more powerful and actually board clearing.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
But here's the power play of the prep into the raiding party. And there's the waggle pick. And suddenly, this is the turn when you're against rogue that you see, and then you start to think, oh, am I just dead in 2 turns? Have they got, well, now he knows they've not got green skin, but like you think, oh, if green skin comes down, that's even more damage. Am I just already under too much of a threat?
Could be scary. No weapon hate in hand. We have 2 weapons projects in Harrison available in FroStee's deck. Again, Flurry developing a board that doesn't die to Dynomatic. Also doesn't die to Warpath at this point. This is kind of what the Rogue has to do. Keep presenting boards that are, awkward enough for the Warrior to deal with.
Inefficient.
Yeah, exactly.
Flurry is getting a little bit dry on resources now. He has a couple of turns. SI, Life Drinker going to get some work done. The Shadow Step can help. Maybe even if he can bounce that which he's lacking to, make the Silver Moon Guardian a little bit better. But overall, he's just getting a little bit dry for the late game. Never mind. What did I say about green skin? Oh, this is terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, that pickup was very powerful for Flurry.
You can push 9 and just kill off the 2/2 easily.
Trading off the deckhand, making your board better against Brawl. Also efficient damage allocation.
Yeah, this is the scary moment now. The second that green skin comes down, it's just so much extra damage you're not prepared for. That FroStee now kind of needs a miracle, and he might. Oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, this
I was thinking he might have to Dynamatic now and just say, well, let's see what happens, and I can Dynamatic next turn and hope.
Oh my god.
I was just going to say, and you can sometimes. Hey, there you go. Very, very like FroStee. But I was going to say, maybe you hope for a miracle and you kill either that or the 3/3 off, and that's just, you take that as a win. But yeah, it turned out pretty well, and that's about as good as it was ever going to get, wasn't it? Wow. Flurry's like, wait, what just happened? Yeah. It's like, can we rewind? Like an instant replay on that Dynamatic. That was insane. It didn't even pick the shield off the Silver Moon Guardian.
So the way that Flurry can deal with this Dynomatic, if he chooses to, he could just, chip everything face. But I don't think you want to swing with the waggle pick at it. It's kind of awkward. You don't want to bounce back the Silver Moon Guardian, so you could develop something else on the board like Life Drinker SI.
I think that would be okay,
Yeah.
Life Drinker SI swing. If it bounces the Silver Moon, well, okay. But if it bounces anything else, then that's a pretty strong minion afterwards. You're edging towards turns where you want to.
He is just bounce the Silver Moon Guardian.
Okay, and then just play the SI with Life Drinker anyway. Huh. Interesting. I think I would have done it the other way around. Maybe
he values the Divine Shield on the Guardian.
I guess. I just wonder at this point, is he playing the Guardian that many times? Because to me, it looks very much like a Myra's. Maybe he just plays Guardian then Myra's. But
Perhaps.
I always feel like there are better cards to play in there. Speaking of better cards, there's a pretty good one.
What now?
I think he has to play it.
I think that was a very timely draw.
No, he's not doing it.
I think
blown.
he's holding on one turn.
Unity, precision.
My always big worry with holding on turn for Boom, unless you're actually dead, if you play it obviously, is that the more the game goes on, I feel like the more pressure Flurry's going to drop on him. And I think that was, you know, just 2-3 attack minions was about as limited the amount of pressure as you're ever going to get in the game. But we'll see.
The one sap in Flurry's deck, I think FroStee wanted to capitalize on using the magnetizing Ziliax onto the Clockwork Goblin, because without a sap, the backstab doesn't include this now. You threaten to heal 6 if you go backstab trade, and if you don't even have backstab, it's how do you deal with this?
I wonder if Ziliax Shadow Step replay the SI and then play the Guardian.
Puts the most on the board.
It doesn't heal him for 6, which is always nice when you don't heal your opponent for 6.
Yeah.
And also it empties your hand, because I feel like he really wants to actually just empty his hand and get this Myra's down. I feel like FroStee's on enough health where Flurry can just go, let's do this. I like it.
Also conveniently empties your hand, so you can set up for the Myras to draw a lot of cards. In fact, all the cards. Dynamatic's not doing quite enough here. I don't think you want to dig. I think this is the turn to play Boom.
This is my problem though, right?
Yeah, there's more.
Turn to play Boom with 9 power. Yes, he's healed for more, but now there's 9 power on board. So it takes a more of a sort of a bigger backswing. Doesn't mean he can hero power as well, I guess, which is some benefit. He couldn't have hero powered last turn.
But I think having the ability to rush the Clockwork Goblin or the Dynamatic in would have been a lot more powerful.
There's one.
Flurry keeps drawing gas. He can decide now if he wants to go Myra's, try to escalate the game. Maybe take it a bit slower, raiding party Miscreant, try to get some more value before you go Myra's. There's still a Waggle pick left on the deck. I believe there's still a Bloodseal Corsair. Dread Corsair as well. So raiding party could draw you all 3, depending on how you want to order it.
It's the question, right? I think you're doing this order. I think
Yeah.
the lackeys might actually just be that little bit better. And it's just more stuff, right? It's like 2 cards instead of 1.
Oh, the Witchy Lackey is pretty good here. Can evolve this Ziliax if it chooses. Stegatron. Ooh, if the Battlecry went off, that would have been pretty cool.
That would have been pretty sick and slightly overpowered. Imagine you evolve the battle cries happen too. Jeez. Oh,
Ooh, that's a new one.
yep. That is a 3/2 that does a whole lot of nothing. If you want to know, it's a special deck building card. Similar. There you go. Oh, thank you. Zale Shadowcloak. You start the game with one of Zale's evil decks. But yeah, that is in the game now because it is a card you get from the single player content that has just been announced. So casual plug there, but go out and try it. It looks a lot of fun. But that means it is in the game, and that can happen.
2 mana 3/2. Not bad.
Funnily enough, when you see it come off Elysiana, it's hilarious because it's a terrible choice.
Yeah. Warpath gonna let FroStee clear up the board here. Unfortunately, won't let him hero power, but I think dealing with the Mojo Master is a bit better than 7 health. Takes all the pressure off the board, buys some time. You still have some armor generation in hand, shield block. And it looks like, at least from FroStee's perspective, that Flurry's kind of running out of gas. He knows there's 2 pirates left in Flurry's hand, which is pretty much exactly the Bloodseal Corsair and the Dread Corsair. Bombs.
Yeah. Oh, Prep's a good pickup though.
Ooh.
If he was going to draw 1 card this turn, Prep's actually pretty decent, just because it leaves him more mana to mess around with. If he plays Myra's, of course, but I think at this point he can't not. I think he's just got to pull the trigger.
So Flurry was counting here how much mana he has to spend before the Myras, and this way, if he does prep Myras, he has enough mana to play the Edwin, which is still left in his deck, and he's very likely to draw.
Oh! Language Hacker, you're a god!
Well, there were 11 cards left. He was going to draw it, probably.
These caster predictions are on point. Yeah, but the first card, come on, take credit. And look, suddenly, at the damage. Forget about the 14 power on board, there is Leroy, Eviscerate, Life Drinker, SI7 Agent, Deadly Poison, Shadow Step, and a Waggle Pick. All of those are obscene amounts of damage in total. I'm not even going to count it. It's lethal. Unless FroStee does something about this. And his hand does not look like he can do much about it right now.
I mean, these are the kinds of explosive things that Rogue can do.
That is honestly one of the best Myras I've ever seen. And I've played Myras a lot.
Well, there were only 11 cards left. He wasn't really going to discard that much. But
it's just the order of that amount of cards being your end game seems almost perfect. Well, looks like a lot of damage from the way I'm sitting on. Puts him to 12 already. Leroy Shadow Step alone, never mind if this is. Yeah, Flurry, you do what you like, friend. That looks like a big lethal to me. FroStee's disappointed. And it's a tough one, that, because, as you said, there were 11 cards in the deck. So it was likely one card got whiffed, fine. But the prep was huge in being able to just empty the hand. But also, those 11 cards were just the back end of your deck you want most of the time to finish a game. Like I said, it was just all damage from hand. It was huge, and Flurry took the win. It looked like FroStee might have been able to stabilize for a second, especially with the boom play, but it wasn't enough. And at least for now, in the meta showdown, Rogue is 1-0 versus Warrior. But these guys have different decks to play, so this one's going to be huge. The changing is going to be the big part here. Flurry and FroStee, easy to mix up. Flurry only has to win one game now to win the series. This is best of 3, so we're going to find out which decks have switched to, or maybe even not, right after this.
Well met, friend. Ooh. Let's get this over with.
I win!
Oh, what an amazing game! Well played!
Here's to the winner.
Now the cards show me a tinker, so clever, but kind of a stinker. In a storm that's a raging, sits the last one I'm paging, a truly unusual thinker. All bots are now gonna go boom, but still, you shouldn't assume that I've made this selection on my own direction.
No, indeed, let's be clear. I have brought you all here, and now you're all in. It is time to begin.
The cards see a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise...
We are back here at Grandmasters with Flurry versus FroStee. It's continuing here as Flurry goes 1-0 up with his Rogue versus FroStee's Warrior. But this is Specialist, so now they get the chance to change to one of their secondary or tertiary versions of their class. So what do you think the changes are going to be here, Language Hacker? Do you think is FroStee going to change it up a little bit out of his two options that he has?
I think FroStee's probably going to stick to his main list. It seems to be the one that performs best against Rogue, with his secondary and tertiary lists appear to be targeting different things, either the mirror or against Mage, which I feel a lot of players seem to be doing, taking their primary list against Rogue and then some alternate options. Flurry, however, does have a secondary deck that he might want to switch to with the Chef Nomi, Henge Clan Burglars, and Harrison Jones. A lot more gas against Warrior. Looking at these lists, if FroStee is trying to win against Rogue with his main list, it's difficult when you lose your first game because you're not switching to anything that's better against Rogue. That's the list you have. Now that Flurry has a chance to switch to something that's even better against Warrior, it might spell trouble for FroStee. Yeah,
and it looks like that's the case there as he's actually gone. We can see with the Henge Clan Burglar that he has gone with his secondary, the secondary deck, and then the Nomi. There you go. That's pretty much the deck summed up. Just a small nod as well, just to get it out of the way. There are 2 Henge Clan Burglars, the Chef Nomi, 1 Sprint, and 1 Harrison Jones, the additional cards. And he's lost double Backstab, a Blood Cell Corsair, a Swamp Ooze, and a Life Drinker. So removing the weapon hate and some extra little cheeky bits that don't do too much versus the Warrior. Whereas FroStee, at least for now, looks like he's still on his core list.
Now, one thing to note that with a lot of these cheap cards being removed, it is more difficult when you're not on coin to activate some of these cards like Miscreant or Raiding Party. Flurry draws a prep now if he wants to activate the Miscreant, but I feel like he's probably just going to re-dagger and set up for a Henge Clan Burglar next turn.
Yeah, the turn 3 is becoming a weird question mark, right, for Rogue, because so many of the 3-drops outside of, say, Henge Clan Thug, it actually requires some level of combo, and especially if you're removing backstabs, then that's going to happen less and less, to an extent where at one point people were playing Wisps, both because it's good to dump versus or with Myras, and also a great combo activator for example, turn 3 minions. Well, I guess the argument is Flurry doesn't really need to rush that much with the Evil Miscreant in this matchup.
Goodness, these are not quite tailored for what Flurry wants to do. Looks like he's going to take the cheap option with Explosive Trap.
Surprised he didn't go Mass Res.
Yeah, that might have been interesting. Just some sort
with
of
Nomi. Summon the 6/6.
Well, the thing is, with the minions he has right now, even with preparation in hand, prep Mass Resurrection on turn 6 would just be like, okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be half bad, would it?
It might not have 3 things in the death pool at that point. We're seeing all the tech cards for Warrior from Flurry here. The Chef Nomi, the Harrison, the Burglar.
The weird question is, though, obviously, Rogue can accelerate its point of where Nomi works, right, because of Myra's unstable element. But you do have to draw it, which he has. But in general, it feels weird that we saw how that previous game ended with Myra's just killing him. It feels like sometimes a little bit weird where I feel like you can take your deck to be a little bit too slow versus Warrior, and then they just play Dr. Boom and keep up with you to a certain extent, and then you're fully reliant on exactly Nomi getting the job done whilst not dying yourself. I think it's a trap that you can fall into a little bit.
This might be one of those games too. Like we were saying, a lot of the cards in Flurry's hand are kind of expensive. Might be difficult to find plays.
Yeah, and already FroStee just has the board. And he has great follow-up. He has a Harrison if he wants to blow a weapon out. He has the Ziliax, and then he has the on-demand, combination of Ziliax or the Militia Commander for just removal as and when, whilst gaining board.
And this is one of the ways that people with Bomb Warrior are able to beat the Rogues in a more effective manner than Control Warrior might be able to. Being able to take the board with the early 1-drops and then just Dynomatics creating board swings, you chip off a bit of damage against Rogue. If you end up clearing all the threats and they have to Myras, they risk dying.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. Another pick, Deadly Poison there, as the discovered spell, not too shabby. But I wonder if just taking the value against with the Harrison is just worth right now.
Just to consider what the secret might be. We know it's a Hunter secret.
He can check really easily though, right? Because he has Warpath.
True.
And he never needs to play 3 cards this turn, so he's not really going to even think about proccing Rat for a long time. Okay, check no snakes.
Freezing.
Defend the gates.
Curious if he's deciding not to.
It's a little bit weird. Yep, a bit of a look up at the shake of the head. I think he realized.
Might be a bit of the sequencing, yeah.
Yeah, I think the problem is when you're against a rogue who discovers a random card and that card is a hunter secret, it might mess with your head a little bit. But yeah, that was a bit of missequencing that shouldn't have happened really to that extent. And there you go. Look, Frosty's disappointed. He needs to just shake it off though, because it wasn't game losing, right? You know, you can make misplays that lose you the game, and then you can make misplays that you can recover from. And at least right now, I'm putting that under the recover from box because it wasn't that big a deal.
Some interesting options here for Flurry. Togwaggle scheme, even though you're not running, you know, Heist Baron Togwaggle, shuffling in a lot of anything can be pretty scary too. Like imagine you have 10 life drinkers left in your deck.
Right.
Every turn, you just life drinker, heal for 6, deal 6.
Yeah. I'll just do my favorite, shuffling Leroy's.
Yeah, that works too.
Not quite as fun without the Togwaggle with the ones, which is glorious when you just draw like 6 or 7 0-cost Leroy's. But still, not too bad, as you said, the shuffle on a life drinker or on a Chef Nomi. How about that? That's pretty good. True. You don't want to shuffle too many in, of course. Like, you know, if he doesn't do it soon, it won't work. But if you, say, drew it, got schemed towards the end of a game, you could shuffle 1 or 2 extras in. It's still going to get some work done.
What jumps out to me here from FroStee could be... The problem is the weapon. If you use Ziliax to clear up this life drinker and then maybe coin out a Clockwork Goblin, just throw more things on board. But it does happen to be weak to the weapon that the Rogue currently has.
Gonna draw first with that shield block. Brawl not gonna do too much now. Brawl's definitely gonna be a potential safety net versus Chef Nomi, or at least a certain amount of time versus Chef Nomi.
You can see FroStee kind of knows what he needs to do here. Clearly, Flurry has kind of a slower hand with the Rogue. With the Rogue, so FroStee pushing damage to the face. Rogue doesn't have that much healing, right? Flurry's running exactly Ziliax
And the life drinker.
and the life drinker,
Yeah,
which
two
is
life drinkers.
2 life drinkers.
Oh, sorry, 1 life drinker in this version because he switched.
'Cause he switched
Two,
to secondary.
2 life drinkers in his primary list, but this is his secondary, so it does only have the 1.
Which means every point of damage push can be relevant.
Yeah, it continues to surprise me that this Bomb Warrior puts on the levels of pressure it does. Like, why is Flurry on 16 right now? I don't know, but he is, and that's just the way there's now multiple bombs in the deck, and it's just like, yeah, Flurry's just going to die soon, and I'm not really understanding what happened, but it did happen. So.
Well, he's managed to win back board at this point, finally. And now FroStee's going to struggle to deal with some of these boards. You can Warpath to clear up a lot here. Actually, interesting enough, Flurry doesn't have many minions left he can play. We might be seeing a prep sprint coming out from Flurry. Try to find something to play.
Or we can start chunking damage. Do the ladder favor of Waggle Pick, Swing Face, and then just pass. See what happens.
FroStee's in a comfortable position. He's got a lot of life to work with. Flurry's kind of low on health. Eventually, if FroStee draws like Orange Caliber, throw in a couple more bombs.
He could play Nomi just as the minion and shuffle some in. It's kind of a bad turn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of rough. I think, how many cards do we have in hand here? 2, 4, 8? So if you prep sprint, you go down to 6, which lets you actually draw the 4 cards, and then you can Waggle Pick. And
it's probably as good as it's going to get at this point.
yeah. I think he might be considering if he wants to play Myra's just so he can play the Nomi. I'm not sure if you want to do that, though.
Oh.
That seems a bit excessive.
With no shadow steps?
Yeah.
I mean, I was joking about the Tog scheme earlier, but with 0 shadow steps, sorry, that scares me a little bit.
Choose soon.
I mean, you're pretty far behind. You have to do something, right? Oh, boy.
Did he just prep a prep?
Yeah.
He prepped a prep.
He's doing it.
Order.
This
Lol.
lets him play the Nomi this turn as well. That's the important thing.
Oh.
So if he happens to hit a Shadow Step, this is extremely powerful.
Yeah, so that's about as much value as he's going to get. And as you said, you know, Flurry's getting close to dying. There are now 0 bombs in the deck. But the worry that he has to consider is how many bombs can FroStee shuffle in his deck right now? But he plays it, and there's no shadow step.
So FroStee is only running 1 Brawl. He's sticking his primary list, it looks like.
Does Flurry just lose? Yeah. There's no shadow step. So after Brawl, unless Nomi lives, and if it does live, FroStee can't kill it unless I'm missing something.
Yeah. Flurry needs the Nomi to survive the Brawl. FroStee can probably make the read that there's no Shadow Step, because you would probably Shadow Step Nomi just to be
Oh,
safe.
instantly. Yeah.
right.
You do that 100%. And, first out. And suddenly, this just went a little bit too wrong. There's still a lot of damage, so there's what? Oh, the Harrison. The Harrison's just going to beat the scheme. The Waggle Pick, sorry.
You probably have to scheme in something. Ziliax, maybe? You could be a bit more aggressive, shuffle in the Grease Fire Elemental.
I think you have to scream the Ziliax to stop the mech answers being like Dynamatics being
Yeah.
what?
We've seen one Dynamatic, I believe, earlier on.
Yeah, you know, so it's 4 copies. A 4/6/6 is worth it. Maybe.
You need something, right?
Maybe you do the 6/6s, yeah.
You probably have to develop the Waggle Pick this turn. I mean, the Warrior has a lot of health to work with right now, right? 41. You need to start chipping that away.
This guy's tough.
Curious to see if he's going to use a scheme this turn. If he wants to save it for Ziliax. He holds back on a Deadly, perhaps to play around Weapon
I
Destruction.
like that. Yeah, this is just a great halfway play, which are normally bad when you don't really overcommit to something. But this is nice just purely because it's enough damage to pile on some pressure, but never mind. That looks like too many bombs. Flurry's just looking down. He's like, I don't even want to see. He's like, wait, that's 2. That's 4. I am very dead with nothing shuffled in this turn, and Flurry could have shuffled. He could have shuffled that turn. I'm not saying he would have won if he did, but he wouldn't have lost if he, if he actually went for it. And FroStee's going to very quickly in this game even it up with his primary deck, I'm pretty sure, versus Flurry's anti-warrior deck, and it's honestly, it is very interesting to me already that, like, is the anti-warrior deck that good? Because these are the questions players are going to have to start asking themselves. What do you think? Do you think it was a mistake to change off this list versus the inclusions he had with the Nomi?
I don't think it was a mistake per se. When you happen to draw all those cards like that, we have the Chef Nomi, the Harrison, the Sprint, the Myras, they're not cards that you can just play out, right? Rogue usually gets on the board pretty quickly, like a Miscreant or SI, Waggle Pick, if you draw Raiding Party early. But when you have that many expensive cards in your hand, it's difficult to get on the board.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what. I'm very, very interested to see if Flurry sticks with the deck, and he probably should if he's decided it's good enough and it is going to be his anti-warrior deck, not like one loss fluster him too much. But it's all even once again. Second time in a row, we're going to game number 3, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure. One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The masters of plotting and scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
Welcome to Dalaran. I'm Peter Whalen, one of the designers on the Hearthstone team, and I'm excited to walk you through the most magical city in Azeroth. Dalaran is home to the mightiest mages the world has ever seen, including the very aspect of magic himself, the Dragon Kalikos. This is the perfect setting for the League of Evil to strike, a floating city filled with...
Dalaran might be home to the mightiest mages the world has ever seen, but Grandmasters is home to the mightiest Hearthstone players. We've got Flurry versus FroStee, and everything is even 1-1. FroStee has his warrior deck, and Flurry, didn't really have the best game considering he switched to his counter warrior build. What do you think the causes were? Just maybe not the best draw in the world, or do you have any problems with the actual text is included language check?
I think the text included are very helpful. The thing when you're changing 5 cards in a 30 card list, you're not expecting to draw all 5 of them. You're just hoping to draw 1 or 2. Maybe over the course of the game, if you make it to fatigue, you draw them all, sure. But as the rogue, I don't think you expect to draw all 5, let alone that quickly.
Right.
So the fact that he drew so many of them so quickly kind of messed up with his early game plan, where you normally want to, start pressuring the warrior before you get to those cards, which gave FroStee enough chance to, take control of board, get some chip damage in, and eventually just kill him after the Myras.
Okay, well, let's go into the decider game here. Best of 3, FroStee versus Flurry, 1-on-1. Here we go. It's, of course, the warrior versus the rogue, the meta matchup we've been talking about for a while now. And Flurry does have a little bit of a better start, I would say. This just an early pick makes things a little bit better. And then the evil miscreant as well with the coin snap played from Flurry, which means he can get these lackeys just locked, loaded, and ready to go.
But FroStee's got quite a bomb of a hand as well. You have the early return rover, even the Clockwork Goblin on curve. All the tools he needs to be able to deal with the rogue's early aggression, as well as being able to pressure beyond that, is going to be good.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good now as well. The dual options of Wrench Caliber and Militia Commander as well is nice. Just 2 flexible choices based on what Flurry is going to do. But what does Flurry really need to do here to actually, especially with this hand, to actually pile on enough pressure to make FroStee quake a little bit?
Probably has to use this Abyss to clean up the Clockwork Goblin. I mean, the main thing is you need to be ahead on board. If you're just going, tit for tat, trying to stay on board, the warrior's not taking damage. There's more time that the warrior gets to get to his all the removal that he has against your deck. So you need to take control of the board and then start pressuring, which means the first thing you got to do is clear the warrior's board.
And how far ahead do you think Flurry's actually just considering with this Myra's Unstable element in his hand again? Do you think it's going to be something that you would just play almost on curve with a hand like this as well? You can get the Waggle Pick out your hand and some of these cheaper minions pretty quick.
I think it kind of depends on his next few draws. Again, with the cheap minions Flurry has in hand, it's pretty easy to be flexible over the next few turns deciding how to use them. And then based on the draws, he can decide, well, I need to go in on Myers now and kind of just get this game over. Or, if he ends up drawing Henchclan Burglar or Harrison or Crab and Greenskin, for example, he could take the game a bit later before he needs to play Myers.
Okay, well, FroStee now going to go for there's a couple of options, but for me, just the Militia Commander just lining up so well to just get that Miscreant out of the way, so it doesn't get evolved, it doesn't get extra damage, it doesn't get Shadow Step for more value. It's like, just kill it so it's gone.
Yep, make a thing, kill a thing. Flurry opted for a Dagger Deadly Poison, so if FroStee had some weapon removal in hand and then wanted to use it, he could, but this means he's not all-inning on a Waggle Pick later with a Deadly Poison buff.
Yep. And also as well, it just ekes a little bit more, just fight for this board out because he knows that there's only Harrison in the deck as weapon removal for FroStee, which means that he, I guess the weapon projects as well, but a 3 attack to 2 attack doesn't really solve the problem. It's not true weapon removal,
especially with Greenskin and Deadly Poison.
Right, exactly. You're expecting it anyway, right? So I would say with only Harrison as a real threat, it was a pretty safe Deadly Poison.
Yep.
This guy's
now Flurry just fighting for this board, and honestly, I keep talking about it, but it continues to baffle me how powerful Warrior or Bomb Warrior is on the board right now. That Rogue is like keeping up with it at its best right now. Even this Wrench Caliber locked, loaded, and ready to go to take down this SI7 agent and start shuffling even more bombs in the deck.
FroStee's trying to plan out his turns with his Blastmaster Boom draw. Keep count of how many bombs are in the deck. plan out his next couple turns, and hopefully, if he's still in control of the board, he can just drop Blastmaster Boom and say go.
Yeah, and already, even if he Wrench Calibers this turn, which looks very nice in isolation, then he can still just Augmented Elic plus X next turn to then shuffle more bombs in, go straight into the Boom, so you know you're going to be pretty much full with Boom bots unless something absurd happens and Flurry draws like 5 bombs in a row. And again, this hand just, I don't know what it is, it just, the last 2 hands over the course of the last 2 games for Flurry have not really felt great.
Well, the thing is, last game Flurry had way too much mana to work with in his hand. He wasn't able to play it all. This game, Flurry did have a lot of the early cards that he could play, but FroStee just had everything.
Yeah, FroStee just curved him.
Yeah, the Turnium Rover, the Clockwork Goblin, the Militia Commander, just every turn something was presented.
Now, go on.
That's kind of why the Bomb Warriors have kind of shown up instead of the Control Warriors. Just it's still controlling enough that you can try to outlast some of the other decks, but against Rogue, you also need to present some sort of proactive game plan, which is exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. It feels like a much more proactive style, right? Which you never really want to make your opponent have all the choices in the game, right? Like, not all the time. And FroStee doesn't look too happy with that turn. Did he want to do something? Oh, did he want to Warpath maybe?
It would have left the Armor Smith off, and it also would have generated a lot of armor for Flurry, right?
He could have swung though, right, as well, just to kill the Armor Smith.
True. No, he would have had to swing at the Edwin.
Wait, would he? No, the Edwin was 6/6.
Warpath, yeah, gotcha.
Or he could have done the same turn, but his hero power is armor up, right? So he would have had enough armor up to shield slam anyway, and then he just uses 2 mana to Warpath.
Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, I think that's what he wanted to do because the armor didn't actually make a difference to the shield slam.
Right.
So FroStee at least looks like he thinks he made a couple of mistakes so far this series, but still, he's got to remain focused. Worry about the mistakes after the match.
Interesting. Auto defense matrix could come in handy. With one shield slam gone, granted one commander and Wrench Caliber gone as well, but if Frosty's relying on minions or weapons to clear Flurry's minions, auto defense matrix can put a wrench in that.
I wonder if you ever just jam sound the bells once for +1/+2 on the minion on the Armor Smith that you just put to 1.
You could.
I mean, you know, it's just another minion that he's just trying to chip away with, and now Frosty's upset. He's like, oh, which Paladin secret is it?
Come on, Flurry. Rogue secrets have rotated. Stop giving me this stuff. I'd be very surprised to see much else other than Blastmaster Boom. FroStee could be thinking, what if it's Repentance?
It's just going to go for it. I think he has to be honest. He's going to have good news, though.
Yeah, not Redemption.
It's actually the perfect way to deal with this board. It's a lot of armor, but he doesn't offer, he doesn't make a minion more sticky than he can deal with.
Actually, at second glance, this was way better. I didn't realize that the minions added health on Flurry's side was 5.
Mm-hmm. Flurry locking minions in so quickly. The little life drinkers hovered over the board. The game is still being played out. It's just a spectator bug, which will get fixed very, very quickly for you guys. Don't worry. But for now, we can at least see FroStee get... I think he just got hit in the face by the shake, but we'll get this bug sorted out pretty quick.
I think he may have played Blastmaster Boom.
Oh, that makes sense, right?
When a big minion hits the board, it tends to shake. Also, when you get hit by a big minion.
Also, because of Blastmaster Boomed Warpath as well. So we're with you guys right now. We're just
I think
living in a world of imagination.
I think FroStee's hand might still be fine if they're spectating from his side. So it looks like he did play Blastmaster Boom, but not the Warpath.
Yep.
Also, he was on 8 mana.
Yep. Yeah, because his is a separate spectate, so that will be fine. But I think we should be getting people to just sort this spectate out and just respectate the game. I'll just get a double check and confirmation from the admin guys in production. Okay, so just checked it. It is just going to come back to us just for a second. We've just got some a tech issue just starting the game out, but I do believe it is just spectator. The game itself is being played. The players are cool. We're all fine. And even if there was, say, a disconnect, there is a reconnect feature. So the competition in the game is no problem. It's just we can't see it. But it sounds like we are getting that fixed. So sorry about that, guys. We'll make sure it's fixed for you and we can catch back up with the game. As it wasn't even its conclusion, I feel, with Boom on the board, with the Boom bots as well, even though Flurry managed to gain a lot of armor as we go back into the game now again. Sorry about that. The boombots are there, as you said, and it seems like I said coming to end. I think it's just going to be a big question of Myras versus the world right now.
Looks like Flurry ended up playing a mid-screen last year with both lackeys to try and contest the, or try to clean up the Blastmaster boom. With 5 bombs left on board, FroStee likely will be able to clean up a lot of the support with the fireworks going off.
Ooh,
Okay.
unfortunate.
I mean, the first one's hit for a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks like Flurry had to sap the Blastmaster boom with no answer for it. Which is kind of scary when you have 3 bombs left in your deck.
Yeah,
Oh, this could be scary.
So Myras is happening. That's just,
Oh, yeah.
Wait, okay, didn't choose to equip the Waggle Pick for the 1 extra
I
card.
think he thinks he needs to play Nomi next turn. Or like this turn.
This turn, yeah,
Yeah.
Nomi Shadow Step, yeah, okay, you're right. Ooh, okay. Wow, that wasn't half bad actually for Flurry.
Yeah.
The 1 bomb going off, and that's it, and he can Nomi Shadow Step. And now these boom bots
13 damage.
don't have the power to 1v1 a 6/6.
Not quite. The thing is, with Warpath in hand, he is able to deal with this first board
Oh.
even without the brawl.
Wait, Wrench Caliber? He could just go for lethal.
No, it's not quite lethal. He has, what is this?
Why?
13 on board. Wrench Caliber pushes 8.
Yeah, and then Warpath the bombs for all damage to face. Come
Of
on,
course.
you gotta dream these lethals up, Language Hacker.
What he could do is go face with everything Warpath. Most of the time, the bombs will do damage to the Greasefire Elementals as well, and if you don't actually set up the lethal, you could finish the Warpath and try to clean up the rest of the Elementals.
Yeah, that's a much more that's a sensible person answer. But yes, I do like it though. I mean, I don't see, and the thing is, FroStee has other stuff. He has a Dynomatic, so depending on what the board looks like after this, oh, he's not going to push the damage. Oh, I'm very interested in that.
I imagine Blastmaster Boom still pushing face.
Oh, this is kind of checkmate anyway, though, right?
Yeah, you push a lot of damage into the Wrench Caliber. Oh.
Well, I think I think the idea was to try and clear the board with Boom still alive, and then Flurry can't replay the Nomi because he'll die to Boom.
Right. With an Abyss in hand, though, he is able to clean up the Blastmaster Boom and replay the Nomi.
And does that mean that FroStee's just dead then?
8 damage from the Rover. Oh, he's playing the Ziliax first to heal a bit.
Oh, and the 5 mana.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Still sits on board. Looking for Brawl. Got 39 damage staring him down. Dagger makes it 40. That's without anything from hand.
I don't think he can. He's so close because if you look, he can shuffle 2 bombs.
He can.
But the problem is, to do so, he has to hit the Ziliax. That's what he was setting up for, right?
Yeah.
Because he had him on 12, so he hits with the Wrench Caliber along with the the Elic. So he hits with the Wrench Caliber and Elic. There's still a Boom on the board, but even if it's cleared without heals, he lethals him, right? So even if it was Abyss, or either way around, Nomi Abyss or Abyss Nomi, whatever, then it means that he could have still killed him. So it was a lethal setup from FroStee, but he concedes now as the Ziliax becoming absolutely clutch for Flurry. And Flurry, if you ask me, looks relieved. And that is twice, I would say, that the counter warrior deck didn't look that good, to be honest, at least to me, Language Hacker. Maybe a little bit unfortunate with some of the draws, but Flurry almost lost twice with his anti-warrior deck against just FroStee's bomb warrior flat out.
Well, look at the final rounds of that game. If he didn't have Shift Nomi, what would he have done? All he had in hand was a Waggle Pick and a Myra's, so...
Yeah, and also he drew Shadow Step, right? Off the Myra's as well. He could have burnt a Shadow Step, so... Oh, I don't know. That looked like...
It was tight. Yeah, definitely.
It's very funny to me that the counter warrior deck matches, games look so much closer than the one he just played Rogue in. He's like, oh, maybe you just kill him. Maybe that's the plan versus warrior. I don't know. But that was match number 2 of the day, and Flurry takes it in a very close series again over FroStee. We've got 3 more matches coming up, though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Grandmasters.